Okay, we're now live on YouTube, so let's begin the meeting. Welcome to the January meeting of List Parish Council Planning Committee. Lizzie, do we have any apologies, please?
Apologies from Councillor Hargreaves.
Thank you. We now have to do the declaration of interest and also the normal sign-on that we have to do now for virtual meetings, which I'm sure we're all probably getting quite used to by now. So I'll begin. I'm Councillor Keith Budden. I'm Chairman of List Parish Council Planning Committee. I confirm that I've read the agenda and any additional notes and representations received, and I have no interest to declare in any of the applications being considered this evening. Howard, can we come to you, please?
My name is Howard Lindsley. I'm a member of List Parish Council Planning Committee as a councillor, and I've read the agenda and I have no interest to declare.
Thank you. Sheila? Oh, you're on mute, Sheila.
Right. My name is Sheila Baldwin. I'm a member of the List Parish Council Planning Committee. I confirm that I've read the agenda and I have no interest in any of the applications.
Thank you. Nick?
I'm Councillor Nick Wilson, member of the Planning Committee. I've read the agenda and the relevant applications and I have no interest to declare.
Thank you. Claire?
Parish Council Planning Committee. I've read all of the items on the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of them.
Thank you. And Sue?
Hello, I'm Sue Halstead. I'm a co-opted member of List Parish Council Planning Committee. I confirm that I have read the agenda. I think I will declare a personal interest in the application at the Oaks in St Mary's Road. The applicant is, I believe, the daughter and son-in-law of my neighbour. I will not be voting on any of the applications on the agenda as a co-opted member.
Okay, thank you, Sue. And also present, we have Lizzie Keating, our assistant clerk. So move next to approval of the minutes of the meeting of the 7th of December, which have all been circulated. Does anyone have any comments or questions on the minutes? And if not, can someone propose them for approval, please? Claire's proposing. Someone to second? Nick, thank you. Everyone happy with the minutes? Yeah, yes, everyone, thank you. Okay, so any matters arising from the minutes of the meeting of 7th of December?
Just ask one question, please.
Yeah, please, Sue.
There is a note for your action about talking to the planning officers about policy SD 31 and 30 regarding 30% and whether there has been any change in approach to the policy, because we had a couple of applications approved that were over the limit last time.
Yes, I have to confess, because of Christmas, I've not had a chance to do that, but I will do it.
Can we carry it forward, please?
Yeah, I will do that before the next meeting. Any other matters arising? No, okay. In terms of public deputations, we've had only a couple of submissions which Lizzie has circulated, and there's been no late deputations as far as I'm aware. Nothing today, Lizzie.
I sent one round from the of the Oaks earlier today.
Oh, yes, yeah,
So that's the only one we've received.
okay, thank you. Yeah, that was basically just confirming that they see it as being just a private residence and no
Yeah,
plans to do anything.
They were just confirming that their intention is not to develop the site for anything other than to keep it as a family home.
Okay, thanks. Right, so we're then going through the applications then. So if we can start with Ivy Dean, Hillborough Road, which is,
So this is the application that we have actually commented already on because the planning officer was unable to extend the comment date. If you
yeah,
see,
well, I wasn't sure if there was anything else we needed to do, or was it just for noting?
the application to comment has passed now.
Is passed. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one then, which is 82 Newfield Road, which is a lawful development certificate for proposed development for a single-story rear extension and a porch to the front elevation.
Could you please allow me to share my screen?
Oh yes, sorry, Lisa.
Okay.
Should be able to now.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Right. Let me just take my agenda. What would you like to see?
I think if we can just see the proposed plans, I think really. It's really quite a minor extension. The extension, if you've not seen it, is this area marked here with the family area at the back of the house, and just a slight change to the porch at the front. I don't know if anyone's got any questions, any points they want to raise on this one at all. It seemed quite straightforward to me, but if anyone has anything, then please indicate. No, so can I assume we have no objection on that one?
Agreed.
Yeah, okay, super. So we move on to the next one, which is 30 Greenfields. This is really quite a big extension. Single story front, rear and side extensions, including the demolition of the existing small garage and construction of a new double garage. And it's noted that I think that the new garage is substantially nearer the road than the previous garage, and indeed nearer the road than other garages along, or other frontages along that part of the road. And it also has an impact on the houses in Mill Road that lay to the rear of these houses in Greenfields. So that's the site. I'm just thinking, can you bring up the proposed plans and elevations, just please, Lizzie? I don't know whether somebody read the, well, I hope you read the notes to go along with this, but the architect has been very astute, I think, in keeping it 1 square metre below the 30% extra allowed under SD30 and SD31. But it remains a bungalow, but it is quite a large extension. I don't know any thoughts on this. Sue, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Well, I mean, I read what the neighbour had said, and I went and had a look. it was difficult to see that there would be an objection to uphold, but I think if we were inclined to say no objection, we should say providing that the impact on the neighbours, including, I think, possibility of overlooking to the ones on Mill Road. The levels are very difficult to imagine. Yeah, because it does fall away down to Mill Road at the back.
Yeah.
And so it was, I thought, quite difficult to understand what the possible impact could be, but obviously a planning officer going and looking on site would be able to assess that properly.
Yeah.
I think with that caveat, I couldn't actually see a substantive reason for objecting.
Okay. Yeah. Sheila?
Well, I was just noting the fact that the frontage will be now, the garage will now be 4 meters from the roadway, whereas originally it was 22 meters. And as I think it was the neighbour said, will this set a precedent for design and approval of other applications? You're also worrying about the height. I don't really understand this business about the party wall agreement, which there is one with number 31 for all construction work adjacent to the boundary. So how will that affect the application?
I think we shouldn't be drawn on that, because the party wall agreement is just a legal issue between this householder and the householder next door, so it's not a planning consideration. Right. I can understand why that neighbour's concerned about it, but it's not something we should consider when we're deciding whether to give planning or not. That's something for them legally to sort out between themselves. Nick?
I think my only thought was that we should ask the planning officer to have regard to that issue that has been mentioned, of whether it would set a precedent and what would happen if others did similar things. What effect would that have on the aesthetics of the area? So if we were not going to object, it should be with that proviso.
Okay. Yeah. Howard, any thoughts on this one?
No, I'm going to abstain on this because I just couldn't get into it. I don't know how many times I tried, and I just couldn't seem to access it.
Okay. Claire, anything you want to
add? Nothing about planning, but is it Maggie's house?
I don't know is the honest answer to that.
And if it is, should it be noted? It said Mr. and Mrs. Nibbs.
No, they don't live at Greenfields.
Okay, in that case, nothing further to add from me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think then, if I'm reading the mood, then we say no objection, subject to Nick's comments about the setting of a precedent, and also that the planning officer satisfies themselves with regard to the height of the land, the difference in the height of the land between there and the Mill Road property at the back, and whether perhaps there needs to be a condition there on, I would think, on the boundary treatment to ensure that there wasn't a overlooking from the windows in the new windows in this development into the house that is in Mill Road. Everyone happy with that? Yeah. Okay, so we move on then to Forest House, Warren Road. This is one we've already looked at, and indeed the decision's already been made, but it's a question about them wanting a variance on a couple of conditions on the planning permission, to say that the conditions say that the garage will not be used as habitable accommodation, and they're saying that they'd like the garage to be used as habitable accommodation for a period of 18 months whilst the main house is being constructed. I mean, my personal feel is I don't have a problem with that as long as it's time limited to the construction period of the main house, because I don't think any real difference to a situation we've sometimes had where someone puts a mobile home on the site just for the period that the house is being constructed. Sheila, do you want to add anything?
Well, I was very suspicious about this because it's rather surprising to erect a garage before you start on the house. But the other thing is that it's basically they're going to be building a small house. Look at it. How is that going to be reverting to a garage? They're going through the cost of fitting it out with kitchens, bathrooms, blah, blah. And I just feel very uncertain that after 18 months, they're going to make it back into a garage. You know, all this work and cost for the sake of 18 months. And I would have thought it would take about at least 6 months before they even build that. So I think it'll be far too tempting to keep it as a residential annex once they've built the main house. That's just how I feel anyway.
No, it's a good point. What do others feel on this? Howard, any thoughts on this one?
No, yes, I took it as being they were applying for this in good faith, and I had no problem with it in that sense. But I did ask myself the question, is there a way of sneaking this in and keeping it after the 18 months? I couldn't see one, but maybe I've missed something. I don't know.
Nick?
Well, like Sheila, I was certainly initially suspicious of what the end goal might be. But then thinking about the overall cost of this building, this palace in its palatial grounds, and the fact it's being done by a builder, I guess to the builder, sticking in a kitchen and all these internal partitions and then removing them would be a minor matter compared to the gain from the overall development. So I came down to the view that we should just be very firm in what we say about it reverting to the original purpose as agreed in the Planning Commission. It then occurred to me, looking again at the plans, did they originally, and I'm sorry I can't remember this, does the Planning Commission include residential above the garage already? In which case it is turning into, if it was, it would be turning into really quite a substantial additional house.
No, it didn't. It was a condition on the original planning that it would only be used as ancillary to, ancillary storage purposes, as per a normal.
But the plans that Lizzie has put on the screen appear to have lots of windows on the first floor, and
yes, that's true.
And even a balcony, by the look of it, top right.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes, yeah.
I mean, it's turning into what I would regard as quite a sort of substantial residence.
It is with those features. Agreed. Yeah. Sue, any thoughts on this?
Well, I very much with Nick on this. It is a very well fitted out and planned, and I can't see anybody reverting to just a simple garage.
No, I said, I'm the more I'm looking at this, the more I'm minded to agree with you. Claire, any thoughts?
I agree with everyone else, and also to add that at the end of 18 months, how is it going to be enforced if the guy decides not to turn it back into a garage?
Yeah.
That's where my concern comes in.
Okay. No, I think that's a good thought. So, in which case, then I'm going to change I'm going to change what my original thoughts were on this, and I think we should say objection. On the grounds that we believe the proposed development of the garage to be, I'm tempted to say, overdevelopment for what would be required for the temporary period whilst the main house is being constructed. I'll need to work with you, Lizzie, on getting some wording that we can actually put for that, but wording along those lines.
Yeah.
And we,
My house.
yeah, we are unconvinced that it would be returned just solely to a garage after the 18-month period was over.
Can we put in a condition that it's inspected by East Hants planners after, say, 21 months or something like that?
We could ask that to be put in as a condition, Howard. Yeah. Perhaps we put that in as a cover, and we say if they are minded to grant the change to condition, then we would request an additional condition be added that the building is inspected 21 months after construction.
I think I would say annually.
Yes. Yes, you're probably right, actually, Sue. Inspected annually to ensure it's being used as a domestic garage.
I agree with the annual comment, but would East Hants actually do it?
Well, I think at least they would do it once, and they should do it later. Yeah. Beyond I mean, it's no difficulty for somebody to just delay 3 months, isn't it?
No, that's true.
I mean, builders are used to delaying for a couple of years to skirt around things. So
I think it's worth asking as a condition. I mean, obviously, we're not in a position to enforce East Hants to do it, but we can ask it to be put in as a condition. Sheila,
can we ask for the original plans, because excuse me, I tried to look back over my notes, but I tried to go into the website, the National Parks website, to see if I could go back to see if there was actually original diagram of what the garage would look like, and I couldn't find one. That might be my fault, perhaps I didn't look well enough, but would it be possible to get a diagram of what the original garage looked like on the original application? Has it changed since then?
That's a good point. I can probably do that tomorrow. It's not something we can do this evening, I don't think, but it's something I can ask the officers tomorrow to see if they can get that for us.
Because if it's changed, it suggests they've had this thought later. Yeah. And I certainly agree with Nick about the fact that there are upstairs windows.
Yes, and I must admit, I have to confess I hadn't spotted the balcony at the end, but yeah, that's so yeah. I mean, we're objecting anyway, but yeah, let me see what I can find out tomorrow, and I'll email around to everybody. Okay, so if we move on then to the
Keith, I have actually got it up.
Okay.
Just trying to open the particular document. I'm looking at the floor plans, and there's certainly a great number of roof lights on what I think must be the garage. Massive garage. I'll just have a look and see if I can see the elevations. Proposed garage plans and elevations. Yes, it does look the same. I mean, we obviously must have had yes, it does. It's got the balcony, it's got the dormer windows, it's got the Velux.
Right.
And yes, it appears, and I can't get it larger. There appears to be quite a lot of stuff going on upstairs, fitting out. So I think they must have got in their planning permission some residential above the actual space for the cars.
Right. Okay. I'll research that a little more tomorrow then, and come back to you on that. So move on to the next one, which is the Oaks, 35 St Mary's Road. I'm sure we're all familiar with the Oaks because we've had it originally as a plan from the charity who previously operated it to have the redevelopment, and that was withdrawn. Now we've got this new application from a individual to take it from being a residential institution back into being a single residential dwelling. Unless anyone's got any sort of major point they want to add, I can't see really there's anything to object to on that, because it's quite a substantial project for somebody. But if that's what they're planning to do, is to restore it back to an individual dwelling, then it's not going to have any effect on the neighbours. I suspect the neighbours will be very relieved, and obviously it's actually going to have far less traffic going to it, one would assume, than it did when it was a residential home. So I don't see we've got anything to object to unless anybody's going to raise anything.
The one question struck me on this, that at the moment there is the house which was used for the residents to live in, or split up into flats or rooms or whatever.
Yeah.
There's also a separate dwelling as you approach it towards the back on the left.
Yes. What was the manager's residence? Yeah.
And I don't know whether that means under this planning application that can still stay.
I don't honestly know. I mean, they're only asking to turn it into one dwelling. So my presumption, I guess, would be that they're planning to demolish that. I mean, certainly when Sue and I went and had a look at it, must be 2 years ago now. So it was in fairly run down, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So
yes, I wonder whether they're going to demolish it or not, but I couldn't see anything that sort of hinted even as one way or the other.
No, I don't think they've mentioned it at all. I mean, it's something perhaps we could mention in our response, is just to say no objection. However, we would ask the officers to look at what was planned to happen to the manager's residence that is to the rear of the property, and as it's uncertain from the plans what the plan is to do with that. I mean, it's certainly, I think from memory, it's certainly not a building that could be used for a second residence now without a substantial amount of work being done on it. So I guess there'd be a separate planning application if that's what they wanted to do.
But I think they'll be doing a substantial amount of work on the main building.
Oh, they will. Yeah.
So, it's very easy if you've got people in to do that to
no. Good point. And so I think we just brought to the officer's attention that building is there. Okay, so then we move on to 96 Station Road in Liss. What used to be Harvey Solicitors, next to the Madaban. Not for the first time. This is a attempt to have this change from a change of use from office use, which it was, to a single dwelling.
Last time we saw it, it was for 2 flats, I think.
It was, you're right, Sue. Yeah, as this time it's a house, and they've also now got this parking at the rear via the road that goes up behind the Madaban, the sort of track that goes up behind the Madaban. I mean, the only thing which struck me about it, I didn't have any particular issue with the plans at all, but what wasn't there as part of the planning application, which to my understanding needed to be there, was any marketing plan that showed that they tried to market it as office space and not had anybody to come forward with a reasonable offer for it.
Well,
that's what we said last time in our objection. But then it got permission. It got planning permission. So
Right.
it's a bit late in the day to be pushing that one again. But
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah, the other thing that we had with the other one was the car parking space, because I believe that car parking space was used as part of the planning application for St. Peter's Church, so that people attending church on a Sunday.
You're thinking of the property next door, Howard.
Oh, am I? Sorry.
Yeah, that was the property next door, and that got changed because there's now been a legal agreement that St. Peter's Church won't use those spaces. So Harvey's got that through.
Okay, sorry.
I mean, I gotta say, on the face of it, I couldn't see any real issue with this. As I say, you know, if they it brings, I suppose, if I look at it from a positive point of view, it brings the building back into use where it's been sitting empty.
The highways people raised a question about the parking having to back onto the site off the access road. But given that there was permission next door for 5 cars from the church, I actually am not sure that.
I think we could be on a bit of a hide into nothing.
But I just thought I should point out, because it was raised by the technical team.
Yeah.
So it's not exactly a major highway.
No. Sheila.
This private drive that the traffic management team say the drivers will have to reverse into, how much traffic goes along that private drive? I mean, would it actually affect many other people if they did have to reverse into this private drive?
Not really.
No, I don't think there are that number of properties off of it. And I mean, they're having to reverse into it off of Western Road, which is, you know, only a residential road itself. So I don't foresee any real problem with it, to be honest, because actually they're the first. It's the first property up that drive anyway, so they've actually got the shortest distance to go up it there of anyone.
And I imagine that's been parking on there for a long time.
I would have thought so, Sue. Yeah, it's probably never just been formalised before, I suspect. So, does anyone think we should object, or is everyone happy that we say no objection?
Happy with no objection.
No objection.
Okay, so we say no objection on that one. So then we go out to Wild Green Lane and 2 Wild Green Cottages. And this is a plan to convert the existing garage to habitable accommodation and add a porch to the front.
What would you like to see?
I think if we can see the proposed, well, first of all, if we can see the proposed parking provision plan, please, Lizzie.
I couldn't understand it.
Bottom diagram.
Could,
But
could,
I think what they're saying, so is I think they're saying there's room for 3 cars.
But they'll have to back out as well, won't they? Onto the road.
No, they'll have to back from the road into it, I think, because the cars are positioned there to drive forwards out. So,
And that is quite a busy road, really. Tricky road.
yeah.
And it's got bends that, you know, it's difficult to come around. You might come into something reversing out. My main worry was, does it exceed the 30%? I couldn't work it out from the diagram.
It's a good question, Sheila, because that did occur to me as well, that I'm not sure that it exceeds the 30% or not. So I think that's certainly something we should raise. What I also couldn't quite work out was what on earth is in this sort of block at the front, because there's this block at the front of the house which appears on the plans, but it doesn't appear to have any way into it, and there's no markings as to what it is.
Keith, I think I can help on that if you'd like. I could just explain what I think happens.
Please, yeah, because they have me puzzled.
There's number 1 and number 2, and number 1 is at least it's quite difficult to work it out when you walk past, but number 1 is the whole frontage, and I think it may go round. If you look at the parking diagram, I think shows it more clearly. So I had a look at a previous application from number 1. Sorry, from number 1 wanted to do something with that bit at the front, just below where that number 3 is.
Yeah.
And number 2 had some views which were apparently satisfied. I was surprised that in turn that number 1 hadn't commented on what number 2 want now to do, but they haven't. And for that reason, apart from the issue of size, which Sheila has raised, my only concern was the parking, which, you know, I can't remember what the technical term is for when they're in a sort of cab rank sort of position, but it's not something we like.
No.
I had thought that there was parking to the left of that, to the left of where the parking diagram, the parking plan, but it actually belongs to a small house a bit further down Wild Green Lane. So that does appear to be their only parking option.
Right. Okay.
And if they need 3, you know, if the standard required 3 cars, that wouldn't be satisfactory. I actually think they're probably over egging it, but
yeah.
And indeed, I deeply suspect they're not using the garage at the moment for parking. So,
well, that's right. Yeah, I mean that of course is the other point. But you know, it may well be that the parking situation isn't actually changing at all. So,
but there's no on-street parking there, is there? I mean,
no, not at all. Not unless you were very brave. So.
I think also, although the diagram as displayed at the moment shows people backing into the thing, there's no way you can insist on people backing in.
No, that's true. I think they've just done that for the sake of the diagram. But yeah, I agree with you. Mind you,
but we would be actually insisting on something retrospectively. They've been doing it for years. I don't think it's going to change that. I just think the addition of the 3rd car in the back of the queue, they've actually tried to be over persuasive. As it happens, the number 1 has a great big parking space over on the right-hand side of that plan.
Okay, so I think I think we need to raise a question about the 30%. But other than that, I'm thinking probably no objection, because I can't. I must admit, when I looked at the drawings, other than the size, I couldn't actually see anything to object to. As you say, given the fact that we probably have to accept that the parking is the status quo anyway.
I think we should mention that we're not convinced that it is a satisfactory.
Yes, yeah, that's true. We can say that we are, yeah, we're not convinced about the parking provision is satisfactory. I think that we can certainly do. Anyone, anything else you want to add? No. Okay, so we're moving on to the whistle stop and the proposal here, which has changed a little since we last saw it. I mean, I have to say that if I give this applicant anything, I will say that they do seem to listen to what's said, because they've gone away and come back with a design which is. I think personally, the design is 100% improvement on what they had last time for the property
Agree.
that's there. And they put back the railings. I've still got a concern about the fire exit down immediately in front of the kitchen windows of the ridge hall.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit I was surprised about. I thought they might well take the opportunity at the same time to move the fire exit across the backyard, shorten the back garden and put it there, but they haven't. But that's their choice. However, all of that, I think I'm sort of warming towards. I'm positive towards. What I wasn't warming towards at all, and I don't know, maybe you've read it, was the traffic study that they've had done, which seems to think that it's fine for cars of people visiting the whistle stop to park as far away as Willow Road, and take up every space in all the neighbouring streets, essentially, to be able to walk to the pub. But that's all right, because that means they only need the 10 spaces that they've put in the car park. And they've not taken on board at all the point which Sue made last time quite correctly, that the car park behind Tesco's is not a public car park. It is for the people in the shops and in the flats above the shops. But I don't think that would carry much weight with these parking consultants anyway, because as I say, they seem to think that anywhere there is a space, and I mean, all credit to them, they went as far as measuring how many meters of space there is. It's fine for people who want to go to the pub to park their car in. Sheila.
Well, I sort of look back over the minutes to see what had changed, and first impression was that they've now got 3 windows in the top story, whereas before they had 2. But there are so many objections. The conservation officers objected, several neighbours, noise, privacy, parking, construction disruption, design, it's too close to the pub, and the conservation officer says it will reduce the spacious quality of the area, the height, proportions, footprint of the dwelling mean its aesthetic appearance would not be a convincing replication of the attractive vernacular cottages nearby. And it just, seemed to be a lot of the same objections as before, which haven't really been remedied. And again, those photos they produced, I think they must have been taken at the crack of dawn, because I've never, ever seen that roundabout with no cars. And, again, if you look at the dates when they did the traffic survey, it's very dubious. So I don't actually think that there's been any mitigating remedial consideration whatsoever.
Okay, Nick.
I repeat what I said last time, which is, as compared with a car park, I think that what they're now offering is actually more attractive in terms of things to be in the village centre. So as far as the actual house goes, I feel quite positive about it, more positive than leaving it as an underused car park. However, I absolutely think we should repeat our fundamental objections to the parking arrangements. I mean, would it be too terrible to suggest that they should sacrifice their beer garden and make sure they do have adequate parking for the needs of the pub?
I would get on board with that.
Yeah, we could certainly suggest that. Howard, any thoughts?
Well, the thing that worries me is this fire exit. You know, if the village hall is on fire, people are going to be coming out in a certain amount of panic, probably. And if it goes up the side of the village hall, I think that's very dangerous, because you can have grass blow out and really to actually have a situation where people will come out and see that as the route there. They're not going to think about it. They might be going straight into a dangerous area.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you resolve this, because it's our fire exit, not theirs. And I don't know what the rules are in a situation like that. But I do think it would be very, very unwise to have a fire exit running just under those windows.
Yeah, I'm minded to agree with you. I mean, I suppose they perhaps would argue, well, you've got the same situation the other side of the hall, but of course it's not the same situation, because the kitchen is where this path comes down in front of, which is where you're most likely to have. Well, in fact,
exactly.
Well, in fact, yeah, the path is, thinking about it, the path is coming past the boiler room and the kitchen, isn't it? Which is the two main places which the fire is likely to originate.
And if the hall, if it is really a light, of course it could be that the people trying to get out are coming from the council offices at the back. And if they see as they come out that the straight out, the way we come in and out at the moment, looks as though that might be dangerous, they might immediately head for the other one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could I just make a counter point, which is, if this was a big issue for us, we should have made it last time.
We did.
We did.
Did we? What did we say?
We asked, we said, has the newly proposed fire exit been approved by the fire safety officer?
Ah, well, I think we should repeat that in that case.
Yeah.
Apologies, Howard. I'd forgotten we'd put that in.
I think we should add a few more extra words to that. That's the final point. And then, sorry, has everybody else spoken? Because I haven't yet spoken.
It's just you and Claire. So go ahead, Sue, and then I'll come to Claire.
Well, I mean, like you, I felt that they'd actually done wonders at picking up on the design of the house, which they'd obviously gone to the village design statement or something and put every possible detail in. And they had actually moved it back a bit. So our comment about the taking away from the character of the side elevation of the hall was a bit ameliorated. But I thought that, looking at what we said last time, we could perhaps remove the first 4 objections, which were about the design of the house.
Yeah.
But all the others, which are all about parking, stand.
Yeah.
And I would add to the final one, which is about the fire exit, just actually strengthen it by adding, saying the proposed fire exit alongside the kitchen and boiler room windows. Have they been approved by the fire officer? I mean, their solution to that would be to, as you said at the beginning, would be to put the access alongside the back of the house.
Yeah.
Bottom of the garden. At the back.
Which, I mean, if they did that from our perspective with the fire exit, it would be effectively the status quo, wouldn't it? Because that's where the fire exit goes at the moment.
Yeah. So it reduces the size of the garden, but that's overcomes that particular problem.
Yeah.
But the parking is a serious one because I mean, I know frequently, and it's particularly because it's used very much in the early evening by workmen on their way home from being builders, and they've got large vans, they're white van men, and frequently they're parked outside the village hall and or anywhere else, even on the yellow lines outside, because they can't at that point when the pub is probably at its busiest, they can't actually fit into the slots, which are quite small looking. So I think all the objections about parking, the 5 down to whatever it is, 10 is it we've got to 11, 9, should all remain the same. And I think we should say, because the conservation officer actually did make some very good comments. And I think we should perhaps express our support for the conservation officer's comments.
I agree. I mean, I think, I think the conservation officer made some good comments, and I think it's probably as a result of those comments and ours that they've come up with this new design. And I mean, ironically, I think if it wasn't taking away from the pub car park, my personal view now, with looking at the design of the house, is I actually wouldn't mind it being there. But it is the parking that's the issue. I'll come to back to you in a moment, Sheila, but I want to go to Claire first, because Claire's not had a chance to say anything. Claire.
Hello. Like everything else, I agree with everybody else's comments, and the only new thing I wanted to add was, while the house now looks like it's a little bit further away from the side wall of the village hall, isn't there still going to be quite a big loss of light on a building that doesn't have very many windows?
You're probably right, actually. Yeah,
because one of the objections we made before was that the build will completely hide the distinctive gabled roof and windows of the village hall, which would be a great loss to the character of this village centre. And given we're engaged in a village design, I mean, in terms of the height, I don't think that's changed, has it, the height of the house?
I don't think the height has changed, no.
So basically, we objected before because the design is not in keeping with the conservation area. So given there's very little difference, I don't think we can suddenly make a complete turnaround and say, yes, okay, we like it.
The actual positioning, looking at this elevation that's here, I think where it was before, the large gable of the house was almost alongside the large gable of the village hall.
It was, yeah.
So that, they've now got 2 or 3 gables all that way. So that has been addressed to some extent.
And I think as well, I know it's minor detail in a way, but I think the window and the detailing on the garage actually do add a little bit to the view this way now as well, compared to the original that we had. But anyway, I think we maintain our strong objection. We make the comments which have been suggested, and I'll work with Lizzie on the wording of that. And I think the one thing that we do really want to major on is this thing of having the fire exit go across the back of their garden, or shorten the garden and put it there rather than where they're bringing it out. Right, okay. So then we move on to Eastfield.
Sorry, Chair, could I just clarify, are we saying that from a design point of view, we welcome the changes?
I think we should, yeah.
And we're not objecting on design.
No,
on the grounds of design. I think we ought to give credit to developers when they.
Yeah, I'd support you there, Nick. I think we should say that we welcome the changes that they've made to the design, which do make it more sympathetic to the conservation area, do provide more interest in the design, and it's pleasing to see them also working to move the property back to allow a better alignment with the gables of the ridge hall.
And secondly, do you think we should make the radical suggestion that they might lose their beer garden?
Yeah, I don't see any harm in that at all. I think we could say that we would like to see, well, whilst we recognise that they're losing part of the outbuilding to move the car park, we would like to see them lose some of the beer garden to provide more parking as well, which would help to alleviate the issues with them parking down residential roads, which
I think that's a bit of a let out for them.
I have to say the other bit I did like about the traffic survey was when it said about the 38 bus service was sometimes 2 an hour, and I'm like, only if you measure one way and one the other, I think. But anyway, we move on to Eastfield Cottage.
Sorry, Keith, picking up Sue's comments, I think what Sue's saying is if it's a let out, we're actually continuing to say that they haven't got a hope as far as we're concerned, despite the improved design. Whereas I thought we were saying if they can actually satisfy parking requirements, then it's okay.
Yeah. I'm minded to agree with you now. I can see where Sue's coming from, but I think if they could find a way of still providing the parking spaces, I guess the publicans probably going to argue if you take away the pub garden, then the pub doesn't attract the custom. But then I suppose that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy somehow. Don't know. Anyway, we'll come up with some words on that, and I'll bounce them around perhaps before we submit them.
So is that an objection, or?
It's maintaining no objection, yeah. Overall, it's still an objection because of the issue with the parking.
And the fire.
And the fire exit, yeah. Okay, Eastfield Cottage, Hillborough Road.
What would you like to see?
I think if we can see the proposed elevations, I think on this one, yeah, that one. Basically, what the situation is here is that this part out of the front, in the middle there, it was an extension which they were previously given permission for. And that extension was built on stilts. And now what they're saying is they want to close in that area with glazing. I mean, the building is not that visible from the road. And I can understand why they want to infill it with glazing, and I think the glazing they're proposing there is quite sympathetic to the glazing in the rest of the building. But what does anyone else think? I'll come to Claire first this time.
Ooh, I get to say something. I don't have any objection to this, except will adding what's effectively another room increase the original property size more than 30%, i.e. how big was the last load of extensions that were done, and will this tip it over the edge?
Good question, to which I don't know the answer, I've got to be honest. Something we could ask the planning officer to check, certainly.
Can't remember when it was done before.
No, I can't. I must admit, when I looked at it, I thought I don't remember this coming before, so it must be a long time ago, I think. So
It was 2014.
Wasn't that long?
as recent as that, well.
Yeah,
Well,
because they haven't lived there that long. He's
Right.
an architect.
There is a sort of explanation document, which, following on from what Claire was saying, I found a bit unconvincing. What they say is that it is not an extension. It's something that it's an infill of existing sides within the limits already set. I personally thought aesthetically it was fine, but exactly as Claire has said, is it just a naughty way of exceeding the 30% in total?
Okay. I mean, so I think the best we can do on that is ask the officers to check.
I mean, surely if they fill in a bit like that, that would count as an extension, I would have thought.
Hence whether it was counted as floor area before, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we don't know whether what the percentage was of that.
No. So I think that's why we need the officers to check that. Sheila, any thoughts on this one?
Well, I didn't think the space was that large I mean, presumably if they took down a wall and extended it through, but if it's just the porch, etc., I thought the glass certainly made that area less gloomy because it must be pretty dark under that balcony.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would affect anybody from the road, judging from the photos. And, you know, subject to all this worry about whether it does now exceed the 30%. If it doesn't, I would have no objection.
Okay. So I think then we say no objection, subject to it not exceeding the 30% on the original dwelling. Everyone happy?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got, I mean, we can either take them under any other business or we can take them now. We've got two other applications which have come in late. They're actually both ones we've seen before, both with changes. So I think we'll take them now and get them out of the way if everyone's happy with that, and then we've covered all the applications. So the first one is Old School Road. This is this extension at the back, which was a change from a conservatory into an extension. And if you remember last time, we objected on the grounds of the roof, because the roof made the extension higher than the conservatory had been, and so we were concerned about the impact that had on the neighbours. What they've now proposed to do is to put a flat roof, which means in fact now the roof is lower than it is in the current conservatory. And so my personal view from this was that therefore we could withdraw our objection, because I now don't see any problem with it. It's having no more impact than the conservatory is already there, which the neighbours presumably are well used to. Unless anybody's got any comments.
There's still, the neighbours seem to suggest that there would still be a loss of privacy because the windows would overlook, I don't know if it was their garden or their property itself or whatever, but I couldn't quite make out where those windows were. I think they're at the side and they'd be happy if they were at the back.
There was a conservatory there before.
Yeah, so I don't quite buy that argument.
But I've not been up to look. So.
No. Well,
Again,
thoughts,
I think they should get credit for being responsive to our comment. I think they should get some credit for being responsive.
Responsive to the comment, yeah.
I didn't object last time, and I actually don't like flat roofs. I would have preferred it as it was. But you know, I don't think we can object any further.
I don't know. I think we should withdraw our objection and say no objection. And then the second one, which is a very similar vein in a way, is Seaton. Do you remember last time we had this issue of these enormous carports, or rather not the carports being enormous, but the roofs. And again, we seem, we're doing well tonight for developers listening to us, I think, because the developers now propose to come back with a flat roof over the carport and actually put grass on the roof to make it a living roof. Which I mean, I think it's you win some, you lose some. I mean, it now makes it look very boring in elevation, but the plus side, I think, is it won't have the impact across the car park of Newman Tollard, which we were concerned about last time. It won't give the impression, I don't think, of overdevelopment on the site any more than what's there now. And I actually welcome the fact that they've gone as far as putting a grass roof on the top.
Great.
Everyone happy with that? That we say no objection now, I think. I was looking at those houses the other day, actually. I'm just astonished how quickly those houses have been built, and they appear to be almost ready for occupation. So,
but just out of curiosity, having a grass roof, is that not sort of giving rise to damp problems? And, you know,
the school has a grass roof.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. So,
given one of our concerns, I think, was sort of overdevelopment, do you think we should be saying, providing it remain, you know, remains, they remain for that purpose?
Yes, I think that'd be worth adding it. Yeah.
Not converted subsequently into residential.
Yeah.
I think this looks less likely to be converted into residential than the previous application did. But yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. Okay, so that's all the applications dealt with. In terms of applications approved, we've got the Newman Tollard maintenance building and the additional garage, which the men's shed are due to build for us. So that's been approved. The single-story front extension and porch following demolition of existing porch, and the conversion of the garage to domestic living accommodation in Birch Close. The other one, the extension at 7 Silver Birch Close, and the single-story extension to the side at 1 Rushfield Road. There haven't been any refused from any appeals this time. 8 Pine Walk have withdrawn their application. We've got a TPO application at Bowers House in London Road, and we've had TPO applications approved at Birdates, at Camrose in the Mead, and at 10 Highfield Gardens, and Lucy Conifers 84 Newfield Road and Pine Trees, Melbourne Road. We've had no new TPOs made. In terms of monitoring of the List Neighbourhood Development Plan, I'm moving forward with my meeting with Chris Patton. We're now just looking at some provisional dates in the diary, so I'm hoping that we actually have a meeting with Chris before our next planning meeting, fingers crossed. So I think you had something on the update on the neighbourhood plan as well with your check against number of buildings.
Well, I wasn't planning to report back in today. When the neighbourhood plan was introduced, one of the things we had to monitor was the provision of delivery of windfall sites that's infilling within the settlement policy boundary. And so I've been logging it each year. And so that's a sort of early January job that I do, looking back through all the applications that have been permitted in the previous year for new dwellings, not only that they've been permitted, but then double checking that they've actually been built, because some got permission about 2014 and they've only just been built now. So it's a bit of a, so that's all, just to report that I've done it for last year now.
Okay.
And whenever we get to want to look at the monitoring of the windfall sites, the facts are there.
Excellent, thanks, Sue. The update on the Tyler development on Andrews Ash Road. I haven't actually got anything to report this month. I suspect largely because of Christmas.
Do we know what the SANG progress on the management plan?
The thing is, they are doing some work over in Burgates Field at the moment, and we had a question from his name's gone out of my head. He's an architect in this forest. Anyway, about what was happening there.
John Bean.
John Bean, that's the one. And so I've suggested Sarah that she gets John to talk direct with Richard Ferguson at the park, who is looking after that, to establish quite where we are at. I did have a conversation with Paddy a couple of days ago, and he seemed quite content with what's happening over there at the moment. So,
but we do need to be aware of what the management plan is before they start selling the houses.
Yeah. So I will follow up with Richard Ferguson as well. So. Okay. Any other business? And I'll start with Sue, because I know Sue does have some.
Yes. Well, we haven't all seen there was an appeal decision which Keith let me have a copy of a couple of weeks back for Ponticum, which is a very old long chestnut. The file is very thick on it. They got permission on appeal. It was quite a lengthy appeal decision. It was 77% increase in size, which is considerably over outside the settlement policy boundary, the policy level. And the reason for it was given by the inspector was because the national park had, I think just last summer, agreed something called a technical advice note, which is abbreviated to TAN. And it was really on the basis of the TAN, which seemed to be saying that the purpose of the 30% was to ensure that retention of medium and small size homes in the countryside. And what the inspector was coming to the conclusion that, in line with the TAN, that the house that's there at the moment, because it had 3.5, 4 bedrooms, it wasn't a medium or a small size house. It was in fact already a medium or large size house. So therefore it was perfectly okay to ignore the 30%. Now, this has huge precedent possibilities to set, not just for us, but across the whole of the national park, I would suggest, in the countryside, where there must be many houses with 4 bedrooms, with fair amount of land, where this new TAN, which we'd never heard about, at least I certainly hadn't, is going to drive a coach and horses through the national park policy. So I would like to suggest that we write to the national park, to Tim Slaney, and possibly copy, I would suggest, Doug Jones, who is the parish representative, elected representative on the national park, and asked what the implications the national park envisage are and how they plan to deal with it, whether they are planning to revisit the TAN, or what other action would they propose, because it could be very, very, very erosive of the planning policy.
It could. You're quite right. So, okay, I will undertake to do that, because I think that's a very good suggestion.
And one other small thing, as I was going through all the minutes of last year's meetings, I noticed that in August you were going to find out what the plans for Mel's house, which got permission.
Yeah.
There was quite a lot left to be determined.
Yeah.
Materials screening, parking, and the boundary wall treatment, which we have never been informed about. And I think, given the impact on the West List, it's not in the conservation area, but it's pretty impactful on
it is. Yeah.
We need to know what that is.
Yeah, I saw you know that earlier, so I will follow that up with the officers, because I've not heard anything from them on that either. So I will follow up with that, because I know I asked for us to be kept in the loop, and I've not heard anything. So I will go back to them on that.
On Sue's first point, do you think it would be reasonable for us to suggest that the authority should consult parish councils before reaching a conclusion?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we're the only ones, as far as I know, who've been affected by this, but it has implications across the whole park.
Yes.
Because, you know, they defended it robustly at appeal.
Yeah.
And it was a very lengthy decision notice. I don't know, has it been shared now? As soon as you get it, Lizzie, could you share it with everybody? Because it's well worth a read.
It is. It's a very. I mean, I think the inspector makes a very well argued decision, but as you say, it's based on this TAN, which we didn't even know existed. So yeah, I think that's a good point. Okay, anyone else got any other business? Nick.
Just it was an afterthought about Forest House, which is that if on further investigation of the original plans, there is actually provision on the first floor of the garage accommodation, one might suggest that that should be sufficient for their purposes.
Yes, true. Okay, I will
Even if it means the odd bunk bed for the children or whatever.
Yeah.
As opposed to completely developing the ground floor as well.
Yes. Okay, I will double check on that tomorrow. Anyone else? Howard, anything?
No, nothing. Thanks.
Claire, anything?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Sheila, anything?
Nothing from me.
Okay, in which case, the next meeting is on Wednesday, the 10th of February. And so I've called a meeting to close at 8:50. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Keith.
Stay well.
Bye.
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 Bye.